My name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 6 to 8 minute long observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 6 to 8 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Especially that business book with that incomprehensibly long title that sounds academic, but is really just fancy marketing. The culture of immediacy that we have created with our digital social communication tools has convinced our ape-like brains that problems of all kinds should be solved immediately to our specifications and with little effort or friction on our part. Here are a few examples. Your mileage and your examples may vary. Climate change could be solved tomorrow if only the quote-unquote right people oversaw the solutions, like the people whose opinions populate my Facebook feed. Elections could turn out with the quote-unquote right outcome with results that I could see immediately, just like I see the results immediately of that YouTube or Twitter poll. People could treat each other with fairness, justice, and equality in a pretty cool and hip way if it were only the right quote-unquote people doling out the fairness, justice, and equality. And all others who don't agree or aren't hip or cool enough could be blocked or muted or never seen again anyway, just like I can block and mute people in my Snapchat feed. Rights, responsibility, accountability, and freedom. These are human conditions or characteristics or skill sets, however you want to frame it, that took centuries to develop and adjudicate, argue over, and have conflict about, to come to the space of where we are now as a global culture. They will not fall to the expanding culture of immediacy evenly or at any great speed. Netflix, podcasts, YouTube videos, search results, and even large language algorithms. These are tools tools of communication that operate on the principles of speed to market, which the market is your eyes, and speed to entertainment, and that is touching your brain. The slow plotting things, however, that need to change, for instance, systems of how people engage with each other around intransigent, hard things like race or gender or sexual orientation, are hard to shift. They require emotional energy and maturity in the face of human intransigence and institutional friction. And, of course, they often require massive confrontation and subsequent conflict to change successfully. It used to be that people recognized and passed on from one generation to the next generation the idea that incremental change was enough and that lifetime change, on the scale of anywhere from 35.5 years to 78.8 years, was just enough to get a society and culture to where it could reasonably be expected to, be. But this idea of plotting incremental change has eroded in the face of a collective of minds, attitudes, and behaviors being transformed by the culture of immediacy that our digital social communication tools provide, and all for the benefit of distraction and attention. Combine this with the fact that the inner workings, both the how and the why of our digital social communication tools, have become incomprehensible for the average person, and that we have elevated this incomprehensibility from a minor annoyance, think about how you could repair a car in your garage only 50 years ago, to a belief in the magical genius of self-interested companies, think Google and how the algorithm of search works, and we, collectively, globally, as human beings, have a giant problem on our global, collective, cultural hands. Relationships with intransigent people that are trapped in systems are boring, mundane, and plodding, but they can also be exciting and thrilling. Solutions to people problems cannot be delivered through the clever application of another frictionless algorithm. People cannot be inspired through speed or motivated through impatience, to actual heart change. The hard work, the meaningful work, the work of people conflicting against other people is the last thing that will survive the cult of immediacy in changing behavior that we are building, if we let it. And the changes that can come about from the survival of that hard and meaningful work is worth leveraging all the immediacy-based, incomprehensible tools that you don't understand for good in all of the ways that you possibly can. And well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening and subscribing to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast. If you're listening to this on any of the major podcast players, like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, please go ahead and leave us a 5-star review and write a little bit in there. A couple of sentences is good enough. That actually helps us game those algorithms that I was just maybe addressing. And, of course, it helps us grow the show. Tell all your family, tell all your friends, and tell the leaders in your life that you know that need to be listening to this show that this show exists. By the way, if you want to get started on the leadership path yourself, or you know some people who need to go on the leadership path, HSCT Publishing, the home company of Leadership Toolbox and Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, can help you and your team do that. So check out our training webinars, coaching services, and more at leadershiptoolbox.us. We are remote, we're live, we're in person, we're on video, and we've got leadership development solutions for your civic group, nonprofit staff, public sector staff, or even your private sector leaders. And of course, you're going to want to check out our video-based subscription service at leadingkeys.com. That's leadingkeys.com for leadership development on demand. You don't like videos, you don't like training, but you really like the podcast? Well, I would also recommend reading a book. Matter of fact, I'd recommend reading my most recent book, 12 Rules for Leaders, The Foundation of Intentional Leadership. You can get that in paperback, hardcover, or as an ebook on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Ingram Spark, and any other place that you order books online. Finally, of course, we're on YouTube just like everybody else is. We'd love to have you help us grow the YouTube channel, so like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the HSCT Publishing channel on YouTube. Just search for HSCT Publishing, or you can search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button. Subscribing helps us grow the show, as it does with the audio, just is the same with the video. All right, that's it for me.